Okay, guys, a bit of an update regarding the Ford Philco TV, which had been having arcing problems since I had gotten it. Well, at first, the horizontal output tube was bad. 6K86 replaced it. So this TV is kind of well, people who grew up back when Ford Philco was a thing when they made TVs will probably understand what I'm talking about. But Ford bought Philco in the early 60s because Philco was having financial problems because Japan started making TVs cheaper and, depending on who you ask, more reliable, but or not. So by the time Ford got a hold of Philco, the Philco was already not known for making good quality TVs. The Philco Predictas looked great, but they were not, honestly, in my opinion, known for reliability. They used circuit boards, which are not great with vacuum tubes because it's like toasting a piece of bread. It just cracks the boards when the tubes heat up. So, not a great design idea to have PCB boards for vacuum tube circuits. Just terrible idea. But the arcing for this, I ruled out the capacitors. I replaced all the electrolytics, recapped it all, double checked the wiring, replaced the bulb for the channel tuner indicator. That's working great now. The sound circuit already worked. I deoxed all the controls, cleaned up the whole TV thoroughly, vacuumed it. A lot of people kept insisting that there was arcing because of a dirty high voltage area. I was talking about this on the video Karma. I even replaced the thermistor that had burned out and the posistor both, and ruled those out. Ruled out the tubes because those were all fine after I replaced the horizontal output. All the other tubes were fine, including the rectifier tube. Checked the diodes; they're fine. Checked the wiring. So here's the old cup, though, and some of this is actually flux from when I was soldering stuff on top of it. This is the old cup, and so I'm not really sure what the whole point of this metal thing is. I think it's supposed to be like lead to stop radiation or something, X-rays. Because with high voltage rectifier tubes, they have X-rays, especially when they're at a too high of a voltage. There are vacuum tubes specifically made to emit X-rays, like what you would find in a dentist's office, but that's a whole other story. But high voltage rectifier tubes and cathode ray tubes can both potentially emit X-rays. That's why cathode ray tubes are made with leaded glass, which is why they're so heavy. Uh, yeah, this was kind of a messy one, so I just figured, you know what, I'm going to replace the socket, which I'm going to do. This is a Bakelite plastic, old style, new old stock, high voltage rectifier tube socket. I don't really think it matters that much if this thing's not here. I mean, in theory, maybe some X-rays will shoot up, but unless you're going to be just watching TVs like this, standing over like an idiot, I don't think you're going to have any problems. And if this thing's designed correctly, I'm not worried. So this is going to be going in there, and I already took out the old flyback because the old flyback was really the culprit. All the windings were fine ohm-wise. There were no shorts per se, but what was happening was the 3-wire winding underneath the rubber donut. I mean, the donut wasn't even that hard. It wasn't showing a lot of use. This is not a high-hour TV by any means. It was maybe medium-hour tops. And it wasn't really that dirty. I don't really think it was dirt or grime that caused the arcing to begin with. Now, maybe it did create some carbon tracing. The focus divider I still have to check, but in the other transformers, but I really don't think that those things were bad either. They could, but I doubt it. I just think that from what I saw, though, because the arcing went from the top of the cup to then up in that area, but there was a second arc that happened at the bottom of the high voltage cage, which made me wonder, and it looked like there was a pinhole that got punched through where the wires wrapped around the stick at the bottom of the 3-wire winding, basically, as they call it, underneath the donut, rubber flyback transformer donut, and so basically there was so much voltage it was punching a pinhole through it, and it doesn't take much. When that dielectric insulation breaks down, it will just jump to whatever it can to get ground, and that's what it did, because chassis is ground with most of these old TVs, and the fuse, though, never burnt out. The circuit breaker never tripped. Granted, I would shut it off when it arced immediately, but This would always happen right after the CRT would wind, so we were getting high voltage all right. I don't think it was the controls either, but so basically I just said, you know what? If the old flyback's fine, fine. But I just pulled the thing out, replaced it with my new old stock Thor Arson one, which I'll do a video showing more of that. And I'm also going to put up the older video when I get around to editing it, showing what happened after we had recapped everything and did that test that we had done for the first time in ages to finally figure out if this thing would start working again. And this thing's putting up a bit more of a fight, but my analysis has been so far that this TV was poorly made by Ford. It's not of as good quality like Zenith from the 60s, and certainly not Motorola. This is kind of when the quality started to go down a bit. This is cheap particle board wood with a little bit of a veneer on it. Nothing that impressive, but with it, TVs these days, I mean, any TV with a vacuum tube in it is going to be desirable and rare, even a Ford Philco. So that should rule out the flyback in the socket once and for all. And if we're still getting arcing, then we're going to be having another conversation about the focus divider and the other transformers like the vertical output transformer and the power transformer. But I'd be very surprised if they went bad. That's not normal. Flyback's the most likely thing, and I think it basically just failed to contain the high voltage anymore. And there's not much you can do about that other than maybe patching it up with silicone, which I might do at a future date for the old one, but I'm not going to mess with it. I just want to be able to make sure that it was actually the flyback. So luckily, I did have that part. So I'm going to be rewiring everything soon, and this thing will hopefully finally be ready for adjustments too. So we're starting to get through these bit by bit here.